Why I love you, you love my dick, you love my son. Reason why I love you too. I know that you need to. The reason I will stay with you. I know I love you too. The reason I will stay with you.
Habari, mimi naitwa Gibson, nimezaliwa na kulelewa Nairobi, Kenya, nina miaka 29 na nafurahia kuwa Europe.
Jina langu ni Omar Babu, mimi ni Mkenya, nina umri wa miaka 42.
Now in English, my name is Gibson. I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. I am 29 years old and I love being here in Europe.
My name is Omar Babu, I'm a Kenyan, my age is 42 years. I'm 42 years old. I don't know why I'll call it an embarrassment, but when I came here for the first time, I didn't know much German and I wanted to take a picture. So I approached this gentleman and told him to take me a picture in English and false using gestures. The guy didn't understand what I said or what I wanted. He thought I was begging some money. So he just shook his head and went off. After a couple of meters, he came back and like apologized and said, "Oh, you wanted me to take your picture?" And he took me a picture. But initially he thought I was a beggar because I think he had assumed from how I was more of a beggar than somebody who wanted to be taken a photograph.
I would describe Europe in one word as order. Or, if I had a second choice, I would say silence. Everything is quiet, silent. In Africa there is music, dance, things moving fast and stuff like
that. I think in Kenya, I don't want to say in Africa, which might be practical in Africa, the philosophy is I am because we are, and since we are, therefore I am. What do I mean? I mean that people are into each other, but here people are so much into themselves, secluded. People don't want to indulge to other people's things. And for example, neighbors in Kenya, if one needed help from a neighbor, it's not a big deal to knock at your neighbor's door and ask for something, even a simple thing as salt, for example. But here, you cannot just knock at somebody's door and request for something. In most cases, even we don't know our immediate neighbors here. But in Kenya, it will be catastrophic for you not to know your immediate neighbor, because you might need him in times of need, for example, or danger. But here, people are into themselves. You have to even book an appointment when you want to see somebody, even if it's your neighbor, even if it's a brother. You have to call them and make sure they're at home. But in Kenya, you just pop in at somebody's place and voila, it's home.
I think Europeans define their beauty with lines, order, and everything being formalized and things like that. They found beauty in order, but in Africa we find even beauty in contrast, and our beauty is far more expressed with colors and sounds, whereas in Europe it's about lines and order and stuff.
They say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, in the sense that in Kenya, talking about my Kenyan experience, people take the shapely girls people who go for who want to be slender so they can maintain their beauty, they take them to be like starving in the rural areas. People believe that when somebody has a big body, it shows that they have had enough to eat, and things like anorexia are unheard of in the rural areas, but because of the Western influence in the urban centers, the idea of beauty is changing. Girls are going for the model type beauty, whereby people have to starve to death so they can keep shape. But in the rural areas, people don't care about that beauty. They think, in fact, we are told that in the earlier days, some people used to be secluded in a place to be overfed so they can be plump before marriage.
I think Africa and Europe are two different worlds, because in Europe things are old and documented. You have beer from 1600, it's written there, the buildings are very old and the art is very old, like the architecture. But in Africa, the buildings that are there, well, they are because of Europeans, so they are quite new, maybe 100 years old, and have nothing documented like from 1600 or something like that with the dates written there. So you can never put history, a lot of history, lineage on African things. But in Europe, there is that evidence and it's written, and you can learn about that. Thank you, Ed.